Uranus in Scorpio generation. The Uranus in Scorpio generation is mainly the generation born from 1975 to 1981. All right, so let's talk about the Uranus in Scorpio generation and what you can expect from this generation and how they are. All right, so this generation, they liberate themselves through matters involving transformation and getting involved with other people's resources, secrets, and baggage, okay? So when we talk about Uranus and the sign that it's in, it tells how that generation liberates themselves. Scorpio has to do with matters involving transformation and getting involved with other people's resources, secrets, and baggage. So when you connect the dots, this is how this generation liberates themselves. They liberate themselves through transforming themselves and getting involved with other people's resources, their secrets, and their baggage. They liberate themselves through being sexual, secretive, and obsessive with unwavering focus towards what they want in life, okay? So again, Uranus has to do with liberation and how a generation liberates and frees themselves from constraints. Scorpio has to do with being sexual, secretive, and obsessive with unwavering focus towards what you want in life, okay? So this is how this generation liberates themselves. They're sexual, they're secretive, and they're obsessive, and they're very focused towards what they want. And they also challenge themselves. That's how they liberate themselves. They have a very unconventional and radical approach towards matters involving transformation, therapy, debt, sex and death, and other people's resources and baggage, okay? Uranus in the sign that it's in tells the type of things that that generation approaches in a very unconventional and radical way. They don't approach those matters in the typical normal way. So this generation doesn't approach Scorpio-like matters in the typical way. They don't approach matters involving transformation in the typical way. They don't approach therapy in the typical way. Debt, getting involved in debt, leveraging debt. They don't approach sex and death in the normal way, and they don't approach other people's resources, their secrets, and their baggage in the typical way. Beyonce, Kobe, and Tiger Woods are a part of this generation. Now with Beyonce, it's very obvious to see how she has this is because if you look at Beyonce, she's a very private woman, okay? And not only that, she has her moon in Scorpio, but she also has her Uranus in Scorpio. So it makes sense because this generation is a generation that's very secretive. They're very, very secretive because that's that Scorpio generation. And you can tell that Beyonce is very big on transformation. Like if you study her in her life, she's very obsessive. She's one of the most obsessive musicians ever because she becomes so obsessive when it comes to like how she works and, you know, towards building her brand and all the things that she works on. And as far as like challenging herself, Beyonce is very obsessive when it comes to challenging herself towards her goals. Like I remember, for example, there was a time when she went on this crazy diet that just to challenge herself and to tap into that Scorpio energy, that unwavering focus towards what she wanted, right? And now when you look at Kobe was also a guy that was known for being very obsessive. Like when people talked about him, they were like, yo, this guy was obsessed with basketball. Like it wasn't just a normal love for basketball. This guy was obsessed the way that he approached basketball. So you can see the correlation with these people is this generation is a very obsessive generation towards what they want and what they'd like to accomplish. And then when you look at Tiger Woods, the first thing that I thought about was when he had that whole scandal when he, like, everybody thought he was this clean-cut guy and he was having affairs with like 40 different women, and it made sense because I'm like, it makes sense because he was doing some unconventional, radical, and odd things as far as approaching sex. You know, everybody thinks he's this clean cut guy, and this dude is having affairs with all these women, sleeping with all these women. So that's just a few examples of how you can see how the Uranus in generation plays out. All right. Towards the end of this time period was the beginning of the crack era in the United States, where we saw sudden Uranus deaths, Scorpio, as a result of overdoses. The HIV/AIDS epidemic also started towards the end of Uranus and Scorpio, okay? So it makes sense because you see, when you get towards the end of a transit, that's when the transit becomes more intensified. And if you notice, during the end of this time period is when we saw the crack era become introduced. And not only that, the HIV/AIDS epidemic started, which both were connected to sudden deaths. And that's everything you need to know. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Take care.